With the summer dwindling down on us, that unfortunately means the end of the box office blockbusters in Hollywood. Each summer, as moviegoers, we can expect plenty of sequels, superhero movies, and even so often, we are lucky enough to see a movie with a creative idea that sticks. Hello everybody, I'm Brian Smith, and thanks for joining me as I break down my favorite and least favorite movies at the box office this summer. People tell me all the time that Hollywood lacks creativity because they release so many sequels each year. It's not so much that creativity is lacked, but that they know sequels are guaranteed to make the studios money each year. If a movie is released and it doesn't make much money at the box office, then it usually doesn't get greenlit for a sequel. In 2014, we've seen over a dozen sequels released into theaters already. Many will argue that close to half of those were just as good, if not better, than the originals. I'll agree that Hollywood is certainly getting better with sequels. Here are two sequels that really impressed me this summer.
What's up, dog? We're back.
First would be 22 Jump Street. When I initially saw the trailer, I felt like they were just rushing a sequel and that they were just into it to make some quick cash. I was quickly proven wrong. The movie is filled with meta references about them essentially making the exact same movie as 21 Jump Street all over again. These hidden messages are all in the dialogue, and if you catch on to it, it's hilarious. What makes 22 Jump Street so good is the fact that they don't change the formula at all from the original, other than the fact that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum went from being undercover at a high school to being undercover in college.
You two sons of bitches are going to college.
Jonah Hill is a comedic genius who owns the screen and can carry any movie he is in. Then you add his sidekick, Channing Tatum, who's not only mastered the role of playing the dumb cop, but has a great chemistry with Hill.
We're like a power couple.
We're like Rihanna and Chris Brown. You're a good dancer, and sometimes you're meaner than I'd like you to be.
Then on top of it, you put Ice Cube, who for all I know doesn't even act. He just plays himself, which is good enough to give you a three-headed monster in the comedic world. Without these guys, the Jump Street franchise would not be as good because they make every single joke work. Though there's nothing in the works at the moment, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a 23 Jump Street in the future. The next sequel I really enjoyed was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The story, written by Rick Jaffa, Amanda Silver, and Mark Bomback, was very good and tightly wound together. The director, Mark Reeves, does a good job in the pacing of the movie. Usually when a movie has a runtime over 2 hours, there are moments that drag. Apes didn't have that problem. Finally, I have to tip my cap to the graphics department. The apes looked real. Without such great detail and authenticity, the audience can easily lose interest in the movie. That's not the case here, and I expect the graphics department to be recognized come Oscar season.
Apes! Together! Strong!
Since there are so many superhero movies released each year, I have to choose a favorite. This is tough because these movies are usually very good.
There's one other name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
But this summer, I'm going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy. The reason I chose Guardians over all the other superhero movies was because Marvel decided to take on a comic book based on characters not nearly as popular as other superheroes that they could have had the rights to, like Iron Man or Captain America, and then they hit it out of the park. Then, they gave the lead role to Chris Pratt, who's made a nice transition going from Andy Dwyer on Parks and Rec to an A-list actor appearing in multiple Oscar-nominated films like Zero Dark 30, Moneyball, and Her. They could have easily given the role to a more household name like Bradley Cooper, who also stars in the movie as a terrific Rocket Raccoon. But they gave it to Pratt instead, and he proved he was the right man for the job. Writer-director James Gunn, he gets a nice shot of redemption here after failing miserably with his last effort titled Movie 43. He was one of a dozen directors who worked on that movie. Kudos to Walt Disney Pictures for choosing Gunn and sticking with him after that box office bomb. Not only will this movie rejuvenate his career, but he's also ready attached to direct the sequel. One final thing about this movie is it has a great soundtrack that anyone can enjoy. The feel-good music being played throughout the movie should certainly keep audiences smiling. Now, let's talk about a movie that I felt was the worst I've seen this summer, and that would be the unfunny comedy A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Why is it so big?
So it doesn't melt. It's actually really interesting how they do it. It's this one company out in Boston that...
That went south so fast!
I can think of a million things I'd rather do than sit through this movie again. I don't want to spend too much time criticizing Seth MacFarlane, but he's not a very good actor, unfortunately. And when he's on front and center of the screen for 95% of the movie, his bad acting is exposed. It's even worse when he surrounds himself with good actors like Charlize Theron, Amanda Seyfried, and Neil Patrick Harris, to name a few. NPH was really the only positive thing about this movie, as he stole the show with every scene he was featured in. And finally, we get into my favorite movie of the summer, and that would be the Jon Favreau-directed indie comedy Chef.
Yeah, I have something really good planned for tonight. I'm gonna let you say it's not sweetbreads. You're gonna be able to taste it.
About an out-of-work culinary chef who buys a food truck and finds passion for cooking again. What I liked about this movie is a simple feel-good story to it. So many of us would love to quit our corporate day jobs and pick up something we are passionate about and make that our new career. But it's much easier said than done. Seeing that happen to Favreau's character, Chef Carl Casper, in this film is inspiring, especially to those out of work and still wondering where their career is going to wind up. Favreau is one of the most underrated directors in Hollywood. He is always consistent with movies like Elf and Iron Man under his belt. He fills this movie with good actors like Robert Downey Jr., Sofia Vergara, Scarlett Johansson, and Dustin Hoffman, all who seem to have a good chemistry, probably because most of them have worked together in the past on Favreau films. This movie also is visually pleasing as it consists of constant shots or montages of the most delicious looking food throughout. You can sit in the theater eating an entire bucket of popcorn and still be hungry when you get out. This is a low-budget indie film that was not backed up with a lot of advertising dollars, yet it's still my favorite movie of the summer. In conclusion, movies like Chef prove that there is still hope for Hollywood and that it's not all about superheroes and sequels. As the summer movie season winds down, we'll hit a bit of a lull in September, but things should pick up rather nicely in October as studios start releasing their movies for their Oscar push. Continue to check HVNN.com for weekly movie reviews that I'll write, as well as the occasional video review. I'm Brian Smith, and thanks for joining me at the movies.